Do something, Lewis. We're about to go live. Chuck. Oh, the bits are in. The bits are in. I see no picture, though. Yeah. Again? Well, you are a positive person, so. Oh, he didn't give you like a thank you kiss or anything, did he? He nose exposure? Oh, man. That's what did it. Nose exposure. Okay, we're live. Hold on. Boom! And we're live. If you have even one I did do a countdown, so it wasn't really that much of a sneak because I said we're going live, and then I counted down, and then we were live. Shout out to Mark T. Joel Jupp. Boom! He wants another one. There you go. My friends, we got a lot to talk about. It doesn't even feel like we missed a beat, does it, Lewis? Like 2 weeks, two full beats. I just feel like we barely finished our last show, and here we are again. Of course, I had a pretty wild ride the last 2.5 weeks, so I barely made it. Yeah. From the pictures that you've showed me, you've been going pretty ham. I'm actually a little worried about you. Lewis is muted. Anyone else hearing Lewis on the stream? I have to admit, I went full canny before we started the show, and you never go full canny before a show. Can you guys hear? Can you guys? That's no joke, Joel. Can you guys hear Lewis? Before we get going, Lewis is muted. Let me try this. How about now? Give me some of that.
Don't worry about it. It's just all for the good.
That fix it, guys?
Fine.
Oh, Mark Lapointe says you're mudded.
Not a joke.
It's getting worse.
Getting worse. It's getting worse. He's coming into vision. We can start to hear him and see him. Oh, my God. Avert your eyes.
Okay, I fixed it. Thank goodness. So I will mea culpa. We're a little bit late today, which not a shocker. But so we're using OBS to record the show and stream the show, right? And before we went live, I got a notification from OBS that said, "Do you want to upgrade to the newest version?" Which I never do. As a rule, I never upgrade anything before we go live because why would you do that? It's crazy. But it's been asking me this for like 6 weeks, right? And finally I was like, it's probably safe to go ahead and do that. So against my cardinal rule, I did, and it completely broke OBS. All of our plugins were disabled, and everything that we do to actually run the show was completely borked. And I was like, Lewis, I don't even know if we can go live today. So I was scrambling, sweating, and because I'm a technological whiz kid, I fixed everything last minute. But it looks like that was the last thing that I needed to fix. So I went full caney, and as Lewis always says,
you never go full caney.
That's the truth. And I did it, and I learned my lesson. Of course, I think
push the full button.
I mean, I think you could take it up to like 70% caney, but any more beyond that threshold, you are in danger of losing it all. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started, my friends. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Let me see if I have everything queued up here. God, I'm kind of flustered here because of that full caney episode that I had. But I think we're good. And let me queue up Mrs. You-Know-Who, and we'll get things rolling. Oh, Mrs. D. No. Oh, Mrs. D. Oh, you're very chipper. Oh, yes, you weren't the only one on vacation. Oh, really? Where did you go? Oh, I went to a very special place with one Mr. El Caney. Oh, really? Where was that? Oh, the topless beach. And we had a ball. Ugh. God, gross.
Lewis, disgusting.
I know. I don't know why she keeps telling us these things. Like, I really don't want to hear these things about you and El Caney. If you don't mind, Mrs. D, we will get this show rolling and get this cold cast underway. Oh, fire when ready. Okay, let's get this thing queued up, and I'm trying to get my hands in the right position. I forgot how all this works. In 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to the Cultcast, the best 30-plus minute
Wow, you
conversation
forgot how the hello
you're going to hear
works.
all week long. It's all broken.
You got an early
I'm
casualty.
your host, Aaron Elijah, joining me today. Oh, where is he? Oh, there he is. With the Cultcast gone for the last 2 weeks, he spent his time reinforcing the bars of the Cultimac writing cage, installing new infrared cameras. So if you're a writer looking to quote-unquote quit, you better have a neoprene suit to hide your heat signature. He's the manager and editor of Cultimac. I can't talk. Lewis Wallace is here.
It's great to be back. Great to be back. Glad you made it back safely from the hurricane zone.
Dude, I barely made it out. Did I tell you this?
No.
I didn't tell you any of this?
Okay, you told me you were going to Florida, and I noticed that so is a big thing called Ian.
Yeah, so I will just give a real quick, I barely made it out of Florida. Like, no joke. So for those of you, I'm sure everyone watching and listening knows this. I went to Florida for a couple weeks. I went to Disney World, which was awesome. I could probably do a 3-hour extended episode just on Disney World experience. I'd never been there before, and I haven't been to Disney in probably 20 years. So it was all new to me, and there were a lot of things to see and talk about. But so the day before we're supposed to leave, so this is last Tuesday, we start getting text messages. Well, first, our friends are there with us, so they get a text message that their flight might be delayed or canceled. And it said due to weather issues, right? And I was like, dude, they're just telling you that because they probably don't have enough pilots. And if they tell you it's because of weather, then they don't have to put you up in a hotel. And everyone's getting all frustrated, right? And then my family starts getting text messages that our flight might be affected. And we're like, what is going on? So I was telling my wife, I was like, it's like a post-apocalyptic movie where like the ignorant tourists are like having a great time and they're just like brushing off like these escalating text messages that they're getting right on their phones. And then Disney starts putting out signs and our hotel starts pinging us. And that's when we found out about the hurricane. It was the day before it was supposed to arrive.
That was the first you heard of it?
I had not heard a single thing before that. We had no idea.
How in the...
Well, dude, you're at Disney World going on rides. You're having a great time. Like we're not going home and watching the news. And Disney World is such a grind. Like we were waking up every day at 6:30 Eastern time, getting to the park so that we could get there early enough to get early admission and get in on the rides that we wanted to catch, right? And then you'd come home at 10 o'clock sometimes, even 11. And so like you're exhausted all the time. You don't know what's going on.
Sounds really relaxing.
I wouldn't say relaxing. Relaxing is not the word I would use for that trip. It was like boot camp, man. It was intense.
Come out of it like Goofy.
And so on Tuesday afternoon, our friend's flight gets canceled. And that's when we were like, okay, there's something that we got to look into here. And then our airline bumps our flight up to 10 a.m. So it was supposed to be at 10:30 a.m. They bump it to 10. And we start learning about the hurricane and everything, and then they canceled all the flights after 10:30 a.m. So we barely made it out. And
wow.
I was actually kind of hoping that our flight would get canceled because like I don't love flying, and things started getting weird on Wednesday morning when we were supposed to leave. Right, like there's a lot of like quiet conversations happening at the resort. The sky is like dark gray and ominous. It starts to rain like more and more and more, and the winds start picking up. And we're driving to the airport, and I'm starting to get anxious. I'm like, dude, like, I would rather at this point rent a car and drive to Atlanta like our friends had to do, which is a long drive. It's like a 7-hour drive, and everyone's trying to get out of Orlando area, right, as people are learning about the hurricane. So there's traffic and stuff. I'm like, I would rather do that and take a sunny, clear skies flight out of Atlanta to Seattle than do this. Because I already know that this is not going to be a fun flight. And we're one of the last ones out. We get to the airport. There's like commotion happening everywhere, like people shuffling paperwork, like everyone's looking concerned. And when we get to the airport, it's windy and it's really dark. Like the skies are dark. It's in the morning and it's still dark outside. And I'm like, I do not want to fly out in this. But we have no choice because Delta didn't cancel our flight. And so we get on the plane, and as we start going up, boom, just right from the get-go, like, oh, it's like being on a roller coaster,
like being on a ride.
It was terrible. And normally once you get to a certain altitude, it just stops because you're high above it. but even at 30,000 feet, it was like you look out the window, you couldn't see a thing. It's like the clouds went from 1,000 feet to 30,000 feet. The whole thing was just one giant cloud. You couldn't get out of it, and we were just shaking and bumping, and I'm like holding onto my seat. My face is ghost white, and I'm sweating.
Jeez.
And it wasn't until we got to Alabama that things finally started to die down, and then as we got into Tennessee and stuff, things got much better. But so yeah, we were one of the last flights to make it out of there.
Wow.
I mean, literally one of the last. Like there were no airplanes on the tarmac when we were taxiing. It was just us and the pilot.
Best of luck.
The pilot door swung open, and I saw him putting on a bandana, and he's like, "Let's do this," and I was like, "No, let me off." But by then it was too late. He guns it, and then it was like the Tower of Terror ride, which I accidentally let my kids go on, and they're both left crying afterwards.
Oh, jeez.
There's this ride. Sorry, I know I'm going on a major tangent right here. So we were at the park, right? And my friend's like, we should go on this ride called Tower of Terror. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about it. Literally nothing. I'm like, tell me what it is. And he's like, oh, it's like this really spooky ride. And then you go up and they take you up in this elevator and then it drops. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Like my girls might be able to handle that. And so as we're getting closer to getting on the ride, one of my girls starts getting anxious and she doesn't want to go on. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to go on, we won't. But I'm like, you have to decide now, like, do you want to go or not? Because if you don't want to go, like, we have to leave the line. And she's like, no, I'll do it. So I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't think it will be that bad. It's just like one big drop. Have you done the Tower of Terror? Have you heard anything about it, Lewis?
I just heard about it.
Okay, yeah, it's not one big drop, Lewis. It's not one big drop. That was fake news. Like they take you into this ride. First of all, the whole hotel is really spooky. I loved it, but like for a little kid, it's scary. And then they put you on this elevator, like full of seats. It's like this big oversized like elevator. And then they open the doors, and then you can see like all the floors as you're going up and down. And then they take you up. I don't know how high. It must have been like 150 feet. And they drop you. And I thought that was it. And then it goes up again. And that was the one I was like, oh no, this is going to keep going up and down and up and down. And my daughter's going to start freaking out. So I'm like hovering over her, trying to talk in her ear, trying to talk her through it as we go through this.
It's going through the human yo-yo.
We must have gone up and down 10 times. Like, I'm not even sure I would want to go back on that ride, but for like a little kid, it was. So we get off, like both my kids are crying. And I was like, dude, that was not cool. Bad move.
Thanks, Walt.
Yeah. Joel Jupp is saying life passage. Yeah. That was definitely a growing experience for both of them. And they talked about it for they still talk about it. Like, remember when we went on Tower of Terror? I can't believe you made us go on that. I'm like, I didn't make you go on anything. You had the option.
Never going into a skyscraper again.
Oh, man. Okay, sorry. There was a tangent right there. Before we dive into the show, let me give a quick thanks to Squarespace for supporting this episode. Squarespace has everything you need to sell anything online. You can grow your business. You can have a website up in mere moments. It's so easy. And you can maintain it all by yourself, which is one of my favorite parts about it is, maintaining a website is a real hassle, especially if you don't have a really beautiful UI to work with, which Squarespace does. They make everything so easy. So you'll be able to create a website by yourself, manage it by yourself. And this is what I use for Cult Cloth, and it is just as easy as can be. I've never had a single problem with it. I don't think I've had a single outage. It just works. And the orders, Lewis, they just keep coming in. They just keep coming in. In fact, we were doing a special deal while I was gone. You got a free clean cloth while I was gone if you place the order, because the order was going to go out late because we weren't shipping out orders while I was gone. So we just shipped out a bunch of those. So thank you to everyone who was waiting for those. But if you know a website for your business or for yourself, if you want to have like an impactful website you can show to potential employers, if you want to start a membership website, if you want to have people be able to book your time so you could teach them things or hold classes, you can do all that with your Squarespace website. Check it out, squarespace.com/cultcast. Squarespace.com/cultcast. Use code cultcast at checkout after your free trial ends. You can use that code, and you'll save 10% off your first purchase at squarespace.com/cultcast. And the offer code to use is cultcast, I should say. All right, let's just dive right into it, Liz. We got a lot of stuff, too much stuff
Breaking
oh wait,
news.
sorry, I forgot. First things first. I can't believe it is this time again. It is the 11-year anniversary of Steve Jobs passing. Let me see if I can bring this up. There we go. Can you believe it, Lewis? 11 years. And the thing that's truly surprising to me is I remember when this happened so clearly because it was a major news event, and I went down to the local Seattle Apple store when this happened, and there were like hundreds of people there pasting stuff on the windows and leaving flowers and stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't seem that long ago. Like, it seems like it just happened.
Yeah, I remember being I think it was in the Wired newsroom when it happened. People been planning on it for a while, right? I mean, it wasn't exactly a surprise, but
It was a
yeah.
surprise to me, which I know seems silly, because
Well, you didn't know about the hurricane either, so.
Yeah, well, that is true. I was actually talking to some guy the other day, and he was talking to me about some bridge that had been closed in Seattle. And I was like, a bridge was closed? He's like, you don't read the news very often, do you? And I was like, no, what happened? He's like, West Seattle, the bridge that connects West Seattle to Seattle. He's like, it's been closed for 2 years, dude. I don't go to West Seattle, so
I guess not.
I didn't know. But yeah, I knew that he was sick, but for some reason I just didn't believe he was gonna die. I mean, he seemed like he'd gotten over it, and I thought that he was gonna get better. And then we saw that picture of him looking really skinny, right? And I think that was my first realization, like, wow, he actually might die from this. And then of course he did. But we've been doing this show for I think 11 years now, close to 11 years, and I just remember this so distinctly, and it happened right when we started the show, like very soon after we started the show, and it's always a moment that makes me reflect on multiple things, but one of the things is how long we've been doing this show. It's been going on for so long. This happened 11 years ago. It feels like it just happened. It's like, no, I think we might have even covered this on the show.
Oh, you should dig up a clip.
Of what?
Post it
From that show?
The show when you're talking about.
I think we were doing the show back then. I'm not even sure.
Now we've moved into that fuzzy memory area.
Well, you want to talk about
long ago. Who knows?
You want to talk about fuzzy memory, Lewis? Mark T says you forgot something. You know what it was?
The tweet.
And by you, I mean me. I never wrote it.
And also me.
But you didn't bring it up either, so I blame you. Yeah. There's a lot of things I forgot today, like how to talk. That you should never install software updates before you go live. Anyway, in honor of Steve Jobs, we are going to do what we do every year, is we're going to play a commencement address that he gave at Stanford, I think in 2005. It's one of my favorite addresses or keynotes that Steve gave, and he just talks about his life. If you never heard it, I always include it at the end of the show on the anniversary of his death, so stay tuned for that. That will be directly after this episode.
I open up Twitter. The first thing I see, somebody puts some on their best headline ever. The headline is, "Pig in Australia steals 18 beers from campers, gets drunk, fights cow." It's pretty action-packed.
Has anyone from the Caney family been in Australia the last 30 days? All right, Lewis, let's talk about...
Go
ahead.
Did you do it?
No, I'm not sending a tweet. I don't have a tweet.
What?
There's no tweet. We're tweetless. I told you I didn't write one.
Can't do it without the... What?
Well, do you want me to write one while you're covering?
Well, I mean, how long does that take? It's 10 words.
What?
I know they're 10 highly honed, precise words.
Do you realize how much effort goes into a finely crafted tweet, Lewis? This is why my tweets get like 5 to 7 likes each. You think that just happens?
I see. So I can quit looking at Twitter.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
For now, if you want to
forgo the tweet.
Look, if you want to cover the EU passing this new law, then I can write the tweet while you do that. But you have to let me zone out, or we can just go tweetless. Consider it a Cultcast restarting error. Let's let it go, as the Frozen song likes to say. I can sing it to you if you like. I heard it about 400 times at Disney World.
Oh my heavens!
I even saw a Frozen show. Went on the new Frozen ride at Epcot, which, by the way, Epcot, majorly underrated. People don't talk about how cool Epcot is. Yeah.
And you went to NASA, too, or something.
Oh, yeah. I went to the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. Oh, dude. That was awesome. Sorry, another short tangent.
Another tangent.
We get to Cape Canaveral, and we have like this really cool house. It's maybe a couple blocks from the beach, and completely unexpected, we learned that SpaceX has been postponing this launch because they just didn't have a launch window, and that they were going to be doing it that night. So we get there, we unpack, we go to the beach, and then right from the beach, boom, blast off. We get to see. I've never seen a launch before. It was one of the most majestic experiences I've had in my lifetime. I mean, there's a video I posted on Twitter. You can see it's just completely dark. And I would say the launch site was probably, if I had to guess, maybe 4 miles from where we were. And you all of a sudden, the whole sky just lights up. It's like seeing a star, rise out of the horizon. And the entire night sky is super bright. And then you get hit with the sound wave of this rocket launching. So we got to see a SpaceX launch, and Elon Musk tweeted later that that Starlink had deployed their final satellites, and that all continents were now covered with satellites. And I was like, oh, I think that's the launch that we saw. It was carrying like maybe 54 or 52 like Starlink satellites. So it's kind of historic. And then we went to the Kennedy Space Center, which, if you've never been there, it's probably the best museum I've ever been to. Like, if you're a space fan, first of all, the museum is so well done. And they have all the original, or a lot of the original space equipment there that you can see, like the shuttle Atlantis and all these different rockets. And you have like these in-depth tours of like the different missions and stuff that they had. And it's very artfully done. And it's very nostalgic. Like, if you like space, getting to see the Atlantis that actually went to space and a lot of this other equipment, it really is really just, an emotional thing to do. And the other thing that you don't realize is how huge all of this stuff is. Like, when you see the Atlantis, like, it looks like it's the size of like when you see it on TV, it looks like it's the size of like a Subaru Outback. But like, this thing is huge. It's probably like the size of a 5-story building in length.
Huh.
And its wingspan is probably like 3 or 4 stories. Actually, more than that. I think the wingspan is 70 feet and the length is like 150 feet. Like, this thing is massive.
Was it bigger than the airplane you flew there on?
I don't know if it was, but my memory of it was that it was. Yeah.
It's kind of like a
Yeah.
Apple Watch Ultra compared to
It's
a
the
regular
Ultra
Apple
of
Watch. It
space
does
flight.
look a little chunky.
Well, yeah, and the thing is like, an airplane has engines, so it doesn't need the same wingspan as the shuttle, because when the shuttle comes back into the atmosphere, it doesn't have any propulsion. So they have to make it hugely wide so that it can glide all the way down. And you're looking at this thing, you're like, that thing flew without propulsion?
Wow.
I mean, it's like the size of a building. And you can't, the pictures, you have a hard time communicating like the size of the shuttle itself when you see the pictures. But that museum was incredible. Incredible. One of the best, coolest museum experiences I've ever had. I lost our place. Should we go back? I'm going to be doing this all show. I'm going to try not to, because we'll make this show 2 hours long if I talk about my vacation. And we have a lot of Apple news to talk to. So let's talk about the changes coming to iPhone in the future, Lewis.
They finally did it.
They did it.
They finally blew it up. Lightning is going to have to go away because the European Union passed a law that's going to force every device to go to USB-C by 2024.
Now, I was reading this and I was wondering if Apple could get away with just doing like a dongle, I don't think they can. I think they say the device itself has to have a USB-C port.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of like the breaking news that Steve Jobs is dead. We've known this is coming. It's just a matter of it, but they finally did pass it now, and then finally there's a date. It has to be in effect by end of 2024. Supposedly this is going to benefit the environment and consumers by reducing e-waste. The thing they said is in the EU alone, old chargers generate 11,000 tons of e-waste annually. That's a lot.
I was thinking that with this change, though, how much?
I don't know how much it changes it, to be honest. Right?
Well, how many people are going to throw away all their old lightning cables and stuff? You know what I mean? Like, anytime there's a cable change or a port change or anything like that, like, all those cables just get thrown away.
Well, they'll wear out eventually. But to be honest, I'm not a giant fan of this, kind of like ramming stuff down tech companies' throats and all that.
Yeah.
Telling people how to do stuff. On the other hand, I am real tired of constantly looking for the exact right cord for the exact, group of devices that I'm taking on any given thing. And
yeah.
anytime I go traveling, it's just like, oh, geez, I didn't bring the USB-C to USB-C, or I didn't bring the USB-C to Lightning, or it's always like some combo that's missing, or I don't have the right charger. I gotta say, I'm a little bit happy. I mean,
Yeah.
USB-C is faster. It's it's just as easy to use as Lightning. I mean, Lightning was way better than old school USB-C, but now that USB, I'm old school USB, what I guess it was, you know. I'm
I
sorry, it's better than those old micro USB-C things
oh,
he
for
had.
sure, for
I mean,
sure.
those were a horrible pain in the butt. And I
Yeah.
still have some devices that use those, which is really frustrating. So I mean, I loved Lightning for the longest time, but now that USB-C is so easy to find,
Ubiquitous.
oh my god,
Yeah.
I kind of can't come fast enough.
The one thing though, I don't like it when governments force tech companies to do stuff either, because I feel like you're having like these bureaucrats who don't understand technology dictate how technology should be made, which could be a good thing, but maybe not. I mean, I can identify with your frustration. Like, I was just on this vacation, and I bring a bag full of like dongles and adapters and cables, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have something for my MacBook Pro. I have something for my iPad. I have something for my Apple Watch. My iPhone is different. But the thing about Lightning port that I did like was I was taking my phone in the water a lot because I'm on vacation, right? And if you get the Lightning port wet, it's pretty easy for it to dry out. And the one concern I have with USB C is now you're adding like this male element to it, right? You have like this little disc inside this slot, and that I feel like is going to be a lot harder to dry. And if you ever get your phone wet, then the only way you can charge it, if you can't dry out the port, which is really easy with Lightning, you just stick like a little paper towel in there and like swab it around and it dries it. But like with this, it's going to hold on to water more, and it's going to be harder to dry out. And so the only way you'll be able to charge your phone is with MagSafe or something, which not everyone has. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to charge your phone because your phone port would be wet. So that's going to
Hmm.
be a downside for this.
I've never heard this problem mentioned before.
Well, that's because you know why, Lewis? One of the things I realized is, and this is probably true of San Francisco. It's because we don't live in a water like a warm water
Water world.
environment. Yes, which we will be in the next 5 to 10 years. you know, we don't go in the water often enough for this to be a problem. But people in warmer climates, like in Alabama or in Florida, they go in the water all the time. Like when we were driving around Florida, I was surprised how many cars were just pulled off the side of the road and just in the water because there's water
Swimming with the
everywhere.
crocodiles.
Yeah, saw people
I guess
wrestling
they're
them.
gators.
Like capturing them. It's like a state pastime.
Did you do any gator wrestling when you were down there?
Oh yeah, I captured several. No training at all. I tore a piece of my shirt and then wrapped it around my head like a headband, right? Tied it up, and then I just snuck on them from behind. I did that whole whispering like Nature Channel thing.
Apparently,
And
if you rub them on the belly, they go to sleep just like a chicken.
that's fake news. That just makes them
Really?
mad. Oh yeah,
Oh,
that makes them mad. What you gotta do is you gotta dig your thumbs right into their eye sockets, let them know who's boss. you know, and then just hold on for the ride.
I
And then
see.
the technique I use is that you jam your fingers right into their eye sockets so they can't see, and then you pull your arm around like this, and then you get that thing in a headlock, and then you just start uppercutting it right in the face, like in the jaw, choke it out right until its tongue. When its tongue hangs out the side of its mouth, that's when you know it's asleep.
I see.
And then boom, shoe city, make a pair of shoes out of that thing. That's my tact. That's what works for me. I'm not saying that's going to work for everyone, but don't sue me if it doesn't work for you. The one thing I will wonder about this is if Apple will just drop USB-C entirely. I mean, can they
Like,
do that now, or does it have to have a
drop
USB?
USB-C?
Yeah,
mean-
or drop Lightning and just make the phone portless. Because I
Well,
know
I
that
mean, they've been talking about that for a while,
I
but
is that even possible now?
well, what you were talking about with the regulation and stuff, right? Like, I was just thinking, geez, I wonder. I mean, that's still 2 years out, right? So maybe there'll be a better, completely. That's what usually sucks about this kind of, you must do things this way. Is like by the time it gets enacted, something better's come along, and I like, oh, you're forced to use this old technology. So
Yeah, and someone was just asking, oh yeah, Nathan, Therian, does this mean that the iPhone 2024, not 2023, will have USB-C? I mean, I don't know exactly what it means. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what Apple does. But it's not. This law does not go into effect until the end of 2024. So it wouldn't be the iPhones coming out in 2024 that would need to have USB-C. It would be the ones in 2025. So we're years away from this.
No, I think it's supposed to happen by the end of 2024. Like you, so, and there's been rumors anyway that Apple was going to move to USB-C next year.
Yeah, and they might.
So, and why it's not just to be iPhones either. I mean, it's going to be AirPods cases. It's going to be iPads, which are almost all that way anyway.
Yeah,
tons. Magic Trackpad, all these things, all these devices. So I don't know. It'll be a lot. Everything will be simpler. Let's put it that way. And it won't be worse because, well, and except maybe it might not dry quite as fast. I've never heard that crazy theory.
It's not a theory.
You need to run a test.
That's a fact, Lewis.
That's a fact. Okay, then.
I mean, all I can tell you is I was using my phone, and we'll probably talk about this later in the episode because we went on this big vacation, this big expensive once in a lifetime vacation, and I decided not to bring my mirrorless camera. I just took my iPhone with me. And
bold move.
And I was gonna talk about that experience because I was relying on my iPhone for everything, like video footage on rides, in stores, all the photos we did for the entire trip. And I definitely have some thoughts on that, and charging your iPhone is a big part of that because you're using your iPhone as a phone, not just a camera. And now all of a sudden it won't charge because it's wet, and that was kind of a major bummer. By the way, I did just get a GoPro. I got a GoPro Hero 11 Black. I just got it. Kind of odd timing to get one of those. Probably should have got that before I went on the trip, but I just got one, and I've never had a GoPro in my entire life, so I'll probably be talking about that in a future episode. Because those things are waterproof too, and they're way more rugged. And in a way, I kind of wish I had it with me on the trip because it would have been easier to use that than a phone.
Would have been great for the gator wrestling.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's true. Okay, let's see here. Where are we, Lewis? Oh yeah, okay. So that's our iPhone news. Look, it's slow right now. So not a whole lot of iPhone news happening, obviously, with the 14 just out. But with the 14 just out, we've missed the last 2 weeks, so I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to just kind of chat about iPhone 14 impressions. I have had my hands on one now. I don't own one yet. I also went to the Apple Store, and I tried on the Ultra. I tried on all the different bands and stuff. And I definitely have some thoughts about that. But I know you got the iPhone 14. You're living on the Dynamic Island now.
Yes,
we're getting Lewis live from the Dynamic Island.
In from the Dynamic Island.
And by the way, I have a Dynamic Island tip for all of you iPhone 14 owners, which we'll talk about here in a second. But what are your impressions of iPhone 14? Like, how are you liking it so far? You got the purple, I noticed.
Yeah, I got the deep purple, and let's see. It almost looked purple there for a second.
Dude, it's barely purple. Like, I was in the Apple Store looking at it. I'm like, they should have called it barely purple. Because if you don't hold it at the exact right angle, it just looks space gray.
Yeah, depressing purple. It's odd. Unlike the other iPhones, the recent ones, like Mom's Minivan Blue and the Pacific Blue, which in retrospect is turning out to be the best one from 2 years ago. Both of those suffered from the same thing. It's like they look subdued inside. They look kind of just gray.
Yeah.
But if both of those, you take them outside and you get in direct sunlight, and they kind of came alive a little bit. I don't want to say they sparkle, but they definitely look more vibrant outside in direct sunlight, especially like the stainless steel edge of the Mom's Minivan Blue one. That actually looked pretty cool outside in direct sunlight. The blue itself was always kind of washed out and Honda-ish, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, the deep purple one, is
very subtle.
It's very weird. It outside in direct sunlight, it oftentimes looks gray, but there are certain situations where it's like it does kind of come to life and look actually purple, and it's definitely not the same effect as with those other ones because it's not the same like situations where it kind of becomes better looking. But I gotta say, the wife and I both got the exact same
Oh,
phone, which is
matching phones. How
that's
cute.
been really pleasant. Thank God for the always on display because if we didn't have that, we would constantly be confused.
Uh huh.
But first thing she says is, "It's not purple," because literally, you look at it standing in my kitchen, it looks like space gray or some version. It just
Hmm. It
looks
looks way
gray.
more purple in the pictures on Apple's website, but when you see it in person, like I said, if you don't hold it at the exact right angle, it actually looks gray.
Yeah, you really have to like seek out the perfect condition, and in that way, it's almost a surprise and delight because it's like, oh, it is purple, because like 1 out of 10 times you look at it, it looks kind of purple. I don't know. I went off on a rant on it, wrote a post about it. I mean, I still think Apple needs to come up with some really bold, vibrant looking
That's
things.
what I said. That's exactly what I said. I noticed that
Yeah,
you
I mean,
wrote you ran with that, and you
we,
wrote a whole article about it, and I was really appreciating the beautiful aubergine you used behind the iPhone to prop it up here,
you know,
aka the Lewis. Did you take this picture? You did, didn't you?
of course,
Lewis posted a picture of the iPhone. Is this the 14? Is this the 14?
that's the
That's
purple one right there.
that just looks white. You captured too much reflection on that, but he used a freaking eggplant to prop up the iPhone for the picture. So slow clap for you, Lewis, for being so bold as to. First of all, I can't believe you even had an eggplant. Did
They
you have to
should
go
have called it
buy that?
Auburn. No, I did not. I found it in my kitchen, which is where I often find eggplant, and I caught that picture just in time because later that night it became a delicious meal.
An eggplant did. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
But elaborate. I mean, you wrote the story, and I totally agree. I'm just so bored with the pro colors. I mean, the stupid purple color. I mean, look, whatever. It's cool if you like purple, but you all know I was waiting for that Buster Honey bronze, and I know that mid cycle they're going to release the exciting color. That's going to be the one that we all want, but
But
I'm not going to buy one then.
I mean, the same thing last year. I actually, I mean, this is becoming a recurring theme for me. I wrote something basically the same thing 6 months ago, right before they released the green one, which ended up being not very exciting green either.
Not
It,
very exciting green.
they just, it's fine that they release these, and maybe some
Yeah,
people love them. I mean, it's all a matter of taste, right? And I understand that people's eyes see color differently, right? I mean, maybe my eyes are just, too caveman
too
like
old.
to really
Now
too I'm too
hold on a
old, too
second.
blind.
There's a picture that you posted here. Let's see here. This one. Um, it's the space gray and the silver and the gold and then and the deep purple, and this is from Apple's site. Did you
Yeah.
Photoshop this? There's
No.
no way that's the picture they have on their website, is it?
What do you mean?
Because that phone it actually looks so purple, but when you get it in person, it looks nothing like that at all.
Yeah, that's a screenshot from their site.
Really?
I mean, I
Wow.
might have hit autocorrect on the picture, but if you look at their all of their marketing materials, purple is deep in this, right? I mean, and it's like
That's definitely photoshopped.
the screen is purple. Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, there are instances where it does look pretty much like that,
Mm,
but it's rare and it's not what you'd think. It's not direct sunlight. It's more like in the shade at a 33-degree angle. It's really weird. I mean, it's almost like it's almost interesting in that way that it's so different in so many different things. But it would be cool if it was purple at all times
yeah.
and sometimes glittery purple and other times
Well,
lavender,
that's the dream
But
right
no,
there.
it's just like
Yep.
gray, gray, gray. Oh, kind of purple. Gray, gray. Oh, actual purple. Gray, 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 gray,
Yeah.
gray, gray.
I hear
It's
you, man. I need something big, bold, and beautiful. Sparkles would be great. I don't want to repeat myself. I know we've talked about this like 18 times in the show, but I'm just so over like the space gray. And in fact, I mean, I'm considering not even getting the iPhone 14. Just to be honest with you, like I saw it in the store, and I was like, there's just nothing here. There's nothing here
not a
for
lot of
me.
difference, to be
No,
honest.
no.
So I don't know if you scrolled down on that story. I mean, probably nobody did, but late down in there's a picture of my friend's Corvette
Yeah,
in a blue color,
that's what we need.
and it's like that's the kind of look at that.
Yeah, that's the bold color that I'm looking for right there. Like something like that in orange, just a real, a confident pop of color, maybe with some metallic sparkles.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I first time I saw his car, I'm like, Wow.
Wow.
You know,
Exactly.
it's almost like carnival ride blue. It's like it gets your attention. And I don't know, man. I don't know why Apple has such a muted color palette. I mean,
I don't either.
especially, I mean, even traditionally it seems like the normie iPhones have been a little better, but this year's
Yeah.
lineup is a lot like the Pro. It's like they just decided that they just want to be inoffensive, and maybe that's their whole thing. Like, oh, we're going to sell 50 million of these things, so we need things that we don't want to turn anyone off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if they had offered like an international orange one, that went with the Ultra, I would have probably bought the Ultra and the phone just so they matched. Just because I'd be like, yeah, good, awesome color. I don't know. The phone itself, I got to say, I mean, it's a whole lot like having an iPhone 13.
Yep.
The dynamic island is there. I kind of appreciate it. I also kind of find it not all that super useful.
Well, Lewis, I
Um,
got some tips for you.
Yeah, I know, and I'm glad. And I hope you can explain to me what's going on in that video that you showed me because I watched it and I still want to know why I should care.
Yeah. So for those of you that got the 14, there are actually some interactions you can have with the dynamic island. I'm trying to bring up this tweet. Here we go. This tweet from Ryan Jones. I actually don't know who this dude is, but shout out to Ryan Jones.
I
Posted this,
don't know who this dude is.
but he posted this video of him interacting with it, and you can actually swipe on the dynamic island, inwards and outwards to make it behave in different ways and pop out different elements of the dynamic island, make it bigger or smaller. Now, I haven't been able to play around with this because I don't have an iPhone 14, but it looks like there are a bunch of interactions that you can have with the dynamic island. And I'm wondering if people have even tried this out. And of course, the thing about this example that kind of gives me pause is like when you're constantly touching the area with the front facing camera, isn't that a bad thing?
Well,
I don't know if it makes a difference. I mean, your face is pressed against the same area and
you
it doesn't seem to affect the phone quality, but
as long as you got a cold cloth,
as
it'll
long
be
as you have a
fine.
cold cloth, it won't matter. If you don't have a cold cloth, well, you're screwed. There's nothing I
Oh
can do for
man,
you.
yeah. I mean, I did not know that you could do that. Like shrink the thing and make it. But I also don't really understand how that's helpful in any way. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you can do it, and maybe it's a precursor of like cool things to come. But I
Yeah.
don't actually see any benefit of what that guy's doing in
I
that
mean, it kind
video.
of seems like he's making the dynamic island smaller. So like if it expands and it's showing you like a
Yeah, but
widget from some
why?
app that you're using, you can make it smaller if you want. Why would you want to do that? I honestly don't know.
The screen's gone black on YouTube.
Oh, has it? Oh, okay.
Look at it there.
Oh yeah.
What's
Sorry.
going on?
There we go. Let's try that. Oh, I
Uh,
went oh weird. I went full
half
screen.
canny?
I went full screen on I went full screen on the Twitter video and it totally screwed up. There we
Weird.
go. That fixed it. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I went full screen on the video and it totally screwed it up for some reason.
Yeah.
So if you want to pop one of those little widgets out of the dynamic island or make it appear, it looks like you can do that by like touching it and just pulling it to the right. So
I mean, maybe what he's doing is showing. Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing that I found useful, and this wasn't that obvious either, but one of Apple's support videos explains this. If you're like listening to a song, let's say in Apple Music, and you've seen what happens, right? The
yeah.
album art appears, and a little like dancing meter appears,
Mm-hmm.
and then, for instance, if you start a timer, it'll pop a little circle for the timer over there on the right. And if you press and hold on the dynamic island while the music's playing, it expands so you can see the album better. You can mess with the track. But if you press and hold on the timer, it'll pop that up. You can stop it or start it or whatever. So it is actually useful. I mean, I'm starting to. I haven't used it that much lately, and the one thing that I find kind of weird about it is that yes, you can if you tap on it, like if let's say you're listening to a song, you tap on this thing, it opens up the music app, but then you, there's no like obvious way to get back to whatever it was that you were doing,
Huh.
right? And it made me think. I mean, the first thing I thought when I started using it, it's like, oh, it needs that little back arrow like iOS has, right? Where you're using uh, you use it looking at mail or something, and then you switch to Safari, or you click a link and it takes you to Safari, but then there's that little arrow that takes you back to the mail, right? You know what I'm talking about? The little
Yeah.
back arrow. Nothing like that. I have not seen that happens. I mean, I know you can like swipe in and go back to it that way, but like just a little thing like that would be awesome. And now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe if I tap in the dynamic window, it takes me back to where I was, but I sure don't think so.
The other thing about the 14, I'm not that I don't want one, and I still might buy one, but like I was looking at the camera examples. Max Tech posted this video, and it was showing the 14 Pro Max, the 13 Pro Max, and the 12 Pro Max, and they were just showing different videos and pictures side by side. And the camera looks better in some instances, but in other instances, it just looks like it's opinionated differently, like Apple just tuned it differently. And in some of the instances, I actually liked the Pro Max better. In some instances, I liked the 13 Pro Max better. And in some, I liked the 14. So I was like, okay, there are some differences in the camera, but they're not as obvious to me in this generation of the phone. And so for me, I was like, well, between that and the color choice, I don't really feel compelled to buy this one, to be
And the
honest with you.
$1,100.
And the $1,100. Plus, I'm gonna get the Ultra. I'm waiting for the Ultra, and so I'm like, I think I'd rather just spend the money on the Ultra because
Yeah.
I saw the Ultra at the store, and now that is something I was very impressed with. I mean, go ahead.
Before we go to that,
Yeah,
I just want to say I totally agree with you. You look at some of those pictures, it's honestly it's hard to tell like which one's better.
yeah. In
Which
fact,
one
in
is
some of
better?
these, I think that the 13 Pro Max actually looks better.
Yeah, and so I before we move on to the watch, I wanted to mention this too. We have a how-to on how to take these 48 megapixel camera, right? So I don't know if those pictures in the examples you're talking about were 48 megapixel ones, Pro RAW,
Mm-hmm.
or if they're just the standard point shoot. But anyway, it doesn't. You don't. They made a big deal out of the 48 megapixel thing, right? But you don't shoot in that by default.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go in and turn it on. And as our how-to points out, it has a bunch of information about it. And so what you're doing then is you're capturing every single piece of data available, and it's not applying the sort of computational wizardry that Apple uses to make all your pictures look great. So in some instances, yeah, if you just look at the raw thing, it's gonna be like, it doesn't look as good,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you can go in and edit it, right? You can do like there's the magic wand or whatever thing. You press that, and all the things that Apple would have normally done happen to it, and you can tweak things in other ways. But the files are also huge, right? So anyway, I just wanted to point out that how-to, which has some useful information to it. Drop that in the show notes.
Yeah,
And,
drop in the show notes, and I'll include that this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
back to the Ultra.
not to say I don't want the iPhone 14 Pro. I mean, I might end up still getting it, but if they would have come out with a really bold color choice for me, it would have been more compelling. And then seeing like the photography examples, I was like, okay. I mean, the 48 megapixel, especially once I learned that the pictures aren't 48 megapixels. They're being oversampled from all those different sensors into one photo. So, but then seeing the actual photo examples, I'm like, like the effect isn't actually as drastic as I would have guessed. And in some cases is worse. And then someone was just saying in the chat that iPhone 13 Pro Max has better battery life. I actually didn't know that. If that's true, that's for me another reason just to keep the 13 Pro Max.
I think that is probably true.
Yeah.
I do feel like it, and it's always that way when you first get one, right? Like you're using it more than you normally would, but it does seem like I get down, a lot faster than I used to.
Really interesting. Okay.
And a lot of people complain about the always on screen, like it doesn't, it's not that useful, or they don't like it that much, or whatever. It wears the battery down. Who knows? The other problem I've had with it, maybe this has happened to other people with iPhone 13s using iOS 16. I've had this thing freeze up a couple of times. I've had it freeze up where it will not interact with it. One time it did with the screen on, another time the screen was black. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to a podcast, cannot get the screen to turn on, cannot get anything to happen. I can, click on the AirPod and it stops the podcast, it restarts it, but I cannot get the phone to do anything. So I don't know if I have not done any. This just happened.
That stuff doesn't bother me as much though, because I'm sure that's something that they'll iron out with future, versions of iOS.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, I never had I only used iOS 16 for a few days before getting a new phone, but I never had that kind of problem with my other phone. So I don't know if I got a dud or if it's just a software glitch like you're saying or what. But it's it's a little bit like, oh, great.
It's kind of a
just paid $1,100 for a phone, and now it's doing these weird freeze up things. Like, oh, well, I can always just reboot it and see if it happens. It's like,
Yeah, that's
it's a little frustrating.
That's not that annoying, is it? Just
Doesn't feel,
reboot your phone every couple hours.
yeah, it doesn't feel like an $1,100 experience.
I'm sure they will fix that. If that's an actual problem that people are having, and it's not just you, I'm positive they will fix that eventually. So that stuff doesn't necessarily spook me that much. But I mean, again, would I love an iPhone 14 Pro? Of course. But you gotta decide where your money's gonna be spent. And once I saw this Ultra,
Oh,
baby. Man, this thing looks even better in person, I have to say. Like, I was a little worried that it was going to look a little too powerful on my wrists. And then I slapped it on and I said, "Oh, mama, come to papa." And I petted that thing like it was Judy E. Heath. It looked my girlfriend, also Alex E. Heath's mom.
dear.
Yeah, it looks really balanced. Like I said in my tweet, the current or the older design of, I guess it's not old, the other design of Apple Watch, that little rounded, delicate look, it can never have pulled off this size because it looks too delicate. It looks like a piece of jewelry. It just doesn't look powerful enough. It doesn't have what it takes to go this big. But this watch, it looks way more rugged. It's got all the right angles. I love the shape of it. And even though it's big, and it is big. I mean, look at this picture. I'm showing a picture that I posted on my Twitter. If you guys are interested in seeing it, who's listening, just go to twitter.com/airfun. And you'll see the picture. I mean, it looks big, but it looks balanced on the wrist. And I just can't wait to get mine.
Is that your hairless wrist?
Yeah, I wax.
I see.
That's actually a sugar. That's the one thing about new Apple Watches that I really don't like is you have all these dudes with these really gross hairy wrists posting pictures of them. And I'm like, dude.
It's so hard to take a good picture of a watch.
Yeah, it is. I think I captured the essence here, though, rather nicely.
So what about the action button? How'd you like the looks of that thing?
So here's the thing. I don't really care about any of like the sports adventure features of this watch at all. I really don't. I think like many of us, I'm looking at this purely on aesthetics. Like, do I like the way this looks? And for me, that's the reason I want it, is I love the way that it looks. Now, is the action button nice? Yes, but it's also kind of annoying. Because for those of you that have an Apple Watch, like if you touch it, usually you grab it with two fingers, your thumb and your pointer finger. And what I found is when I had this thing on, I kept accidentally clicking the action button, which was actually kind of annoying. But I think I could probably, relearn my finger positioning. And for me, I would probably, I saw a video from this guy on YouTube, Your Average Consumer. He's a pretty big tech reviewer, and he turned his into a flashlight button, which for me, I'm like, boom, that's exactly what I would do. Like, I use the flashlight on my phone all the time, and if I had a way to activate the flashlight on my Apple Watch Ultra, like, I would actually use that all the time and not have to carry my phone with me. I might even activate this thing and connect it to my data plan, Lewis. I might even do that.
I mean, the weird thing about maybe the biggest surprise about this thing is the price, because the price is the same as what a titanium regular Apple Watch was, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the battery life is double, I think roughly double. It's got supposedly the brightest screen, as bright as your iPhone. I haven't seen one turned on. I've only seen one in a Costco case, right? So to me, it was a little like I didn't have that great of an experience looking at it. I thought the titanium looked kind of dull. What do you think about the titanium case? It looked good?
I thought it looked great. Yeah, it looked a lot more yellow in the pictures than I thought, or it looked more yellow in the pictures that I saw online than it does in person. Like when you see it online, it just looks like a really beautiful, like soft silver. So I loved the color. I really love the Alpine loop, like that green one with the hook. I don't love the hook, but it's better than those other, like the diving loop. That thing is crazy.
Like the diving loop.
That thing is ridiculous.
I like
it's
the picture.
Yeah,
Makes
go
me
ahead.
want to go diving.
Yeah, okay. Well, you take it and go diving. I'm gonna stick with the Alpine loop personally.
That thing is ideal when you're in the swamp wrestling a gator.
Oh yeah, I hadn't considered that. So you may be swaying me here live on the show, but yeah, I just fell in love with this watch. Absolutely, I can't wait to get one of my own. You got to try it on. I mean, people keep asking me like, "Well, is it too big?" I'm like, "Well, it's not too big for me. It depends on you." In fact, I actually think that this watch, it looks better on skinnier wrists because of its bulk than it does on a big wrist. If you have a big wrist, it's just going to make you look like you have a giant ham hock, wrist, because this adds to the size of your wrist. So it's a personal thing. You have to try it on and decide if you like the way that it looks. But I love it. I think it looks even better than I had hoped in person. So I'm going to be getting one as soon as possible. And, these things are $800. So I was like, okay, so I might just do this instead of the iPhone 11 this year, because I feel like this is more of a unique product anyway, and it will give me some better topics of conversation. Because like the iPhone 14, I mean, it's cool, but like, how much more can I say about it that hasn't already been said? It's like everyone's already made like 1,000 videos about it, but I feel like the Apple Watch Ultra, less people are buying this. Less regular people are buying this because it's expensive. I mean, $800 for a watch. I mean, everyone needs a phone. They're going to buy the phone, but not everyone buys the watch,
I always swore I would never buy one of the titanium or stainless steel ones. I could never understand it, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it's going to be outdated in a year. Why would I do that? But, this actually makes a compelling case for like getting a slightly better one, And how
Yeah.
light? I've read all kinds of things that, oh, it's really light.
I didn't notice the weight at all. So to me, that indicates that it's just as light as my current Apple Watch. It's probably a little bit heavier if I had to guess. But how is it living with this thing? That's what I'm curious about. You have this thing. It's huge. It's getting caught on stuff. You take it to the gym. You're bumping it on things. Like I'm a little worried about that. But I still think that even if it gets caught on stuff, as long as I don't accidentally rip my hand off, like Jimmy Fallon. Did you hear about Jimmy Fallon?
What?
Jimmy Fallon, he got his wedding ring stuck on something, and apparently it ripped his whole finger off.
Oh, this happens. I've heard this kind of crap.
This is like a year ago or something.
Ugh, it's
Crazy
horrible.
story, right? I know. So I'm like, oh man, I hope I don't end up in in an amputee situation because my watch gets stuck on something. Because I mean, it is huge and it bumps into things. I mean, I bump my current watch into stuff, and look how small and dainty this thing is.
The good news is you got the siren, and you'll have the SOS.
That's true. So I can get help.
Those sirens are kind of wild. That was another. This happened when you were gone, but we published a story by Graham Bauer, our Apple Watch expert,
Yeah.
and it's 9 things you didn't know about the Apple Watch Ultra.
Only 9?
Yeah, it was exactly 9.
Wow.
Should have brought that up. We could have gone through that. There's some interesting things on that list. It's just kind of little lesser known facts about it. One of them was talking about the effort they went to come up with interesting sounds for that siren.
You know what I just realized, Lewis, is we skipped over. I guess we could do this next. We're almost done, but I forgot about my experiment with my iPhone 13 Pro as my only camera.
All right.
All right, so to be continued in just a moment. But Apple Watch Ultra, man, I just can't wait to get my hands on this thing. I can't wait to get my wrists in this thing. You know what I'm saying, Lewis?
Yeah.
Ever since I saw it in person, I was like, this is a really beautiful watch.
When are you
are
you just waiting until one appears in a store nearby?
No. Okay, so I'm waiting for an Apple discount to become available on these because Apple's not discounting them for their employees yet. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I have a hot tip for you guys. Now, this isn't going to work for everyone, okay?
Hot tip.
This isn't going to work for everyone, but you all know that I like to get a good deal, and I'm always watching deals. And I saw this deal yesterday, and I was like, now this is a hot deal. So let me see if I can bring this up. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. So there's a potential deal on the Apple Watch Ultra. And like I said, not everyone's going to be able to do this, but for those of you who can, this is worth watching. So if you have an Amex card, Amex has like American Express. They have like these deals that are built in, and they give you discounts if you spend like a certain amount of money at certain retailers and all these other places. And so check your Amex offers. And if you don't see this deal for this site called Hodinkey, God, that's a terrible name. Terrible. Hodinkey. You can get $200 off a purchase of $750 or more via an Amex credit. So the way it works is you sign up for the offer on your credit card website or in the app, and then when you purchase when you make the purchase of the correct amount at this retailer, then your credit card just gives you a refund of like whatever amount. So for this one, it's $200. So you can get the Apple Watch Ultra if they have them in stock. They don't have them in stock currently. For $599 via this method. So
Hodinkey.
You have to sign up for the offer first on your credit card. and then you go to hodinkey.com, and if they have the Apple Watch Ultra in stock, you order it, and then your Amex will give you $200 back. I just did this with the GoPro. This is why I bought the GoPro. Because, and this is actually how I found out about these kinds of offers, is because Amex was doing an offer where if you buy like a certain amount of money or a certain amount of dollar value worth of GoPro, they'll give you like a $40 refund. And so I was like, oh shoot. So I bought a GoPro for like this really great price. I think I paid like $360 for it after all was said and done, for like this package, which comes with like all these different accessories. So I was like, it's worth a shot for $360. I'm like, I'll play ball for $360. So I'm watching this deal. So you got to sign up for the deal, and like I said, they're all currently totally sold out.
Did they ever have the Ultra?
I'm not sure. They may not have stocked them yet. But this deal,
6 and 5 and
this deal expires on December 31st, 2022. So if you sign up for the deal, even if you don't get it anytime soon, if you're like, I don't really want to buy an Apple Watch Ultra for $799, but for $599 I will. So just keep your eye out for
That's
this.
true.
For
it
this,
says back in stock soon.
Yeah. So I've been refreshing.
That is actually a great tip.
That's a hot tip, isn't it? I thought you guys would
Wow.
like that. Those are the kinds of
shocked.
tips you only get. You think you're gonna get this tip on the talk show? Give me a break. Get out of my face. Yeah, I like these hot deals. You guys know I like a hot deal.
I wonder what their price is. I wonder if they don't upcharge on these things, do they?
No, because I don't even think it's Hodinkey doing the discount. It's American Express. So I don't know what their arrangement is together, but it's going to just be normal price. I mean, if you actually go into this watch right here, you can see. Let's see here. It's $799.
Yeah.
Look at that.
True enough.
So
look at that. They got the white ocean band, the midnight ocean band.
I considered that one, but
it's going to have to be the trail loop, isn't it?
I'm going with the Alpine Loop.
The Alpine Loop.
Yeah,
that's the one that looks different. The trail loop just looks like a glorified sport band.
The trail loop. Yeah. You know the thing about the trail loop that I really don't like? So the trail loop is like the nylon band that looks like a sport loop. I don't like the color schemes they have going here. They look like something. They look like a tie you would get from Sears, Roebuck and Company.
Yeah, they've really got it. Whoever they have on their team that used to work for Banana Republic, picking all the swatches, they gotta let that person go.
Yeah, they gotta let that guy go back to J. Crew. This is not working for me. So I would probably prefer the nylon band, aka what do they call it, the trail loop, because that's the one that's the most comfortable. But I really don't like this color. I really just don't like it.
Yeah.
And this weird like solid color stripes they have on the outside with the pattern in the middle. It's like, dude,
I don't necessarily understand what's up with the Alpine Loop. I mean, I don't really understand why it's why it exists or what's special about it. I mean, is it literally just a look, or is there some kind of like? Is there some?
You got me, Lewis.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there any utility whatsoever to the weird shape and the hook and all that? I mean, what you take? And what's it got to do with
I would
Alpine?
prefer just I think the best looking straps that Apple has, even including the Hermes straps or like the Nike watch straps. They have like this really understated look, and they have like this reflective material built into them. I'm wearing one right now. You can't really see it, and I would probably just go for one of those. Just get the 45 millimeter, and that fits the Apple Watch Ultra, and just wear that. In fact, that's probably what I'll do. But the Alpine Loop I do like. The green one in person, it's muted, it's very minimalist, and it won't like clash with anything that you wear. So this is my pick for sure out of all the straps that they have. This is the best looking one. I do like the white one as well, but I'm a little worried that the white strap is going to get really dirty and gross and grungy really fast. I mean, it's white, dude. It's like
not if you keep diving. Just keep diving.
Oh, sure. You mean in the green murky water of the Puget Sound? Oh, that will look great on your Apple Watch strap. No problems there. So if I didn't think this one would get really dirty and gross really fast, I would probably go this route. But I don't know. That green one looks really good in person. But anyway, so hot tip. Check out your Amex credit card if you have one. I got one for the miles. That's the main one that I've been using lately. And it also has an extended warranty, which is nice. Not as good as like the normal credit cards that I use, but it's nice to have the miles. And then you might be able to get an Apple Watch for $599.
I just signed up for it, man. It takes 1 second to do.
Oh, was the offer in your Amex account?
Yep.
Okay. So some people were complaining that the offer wasn't there. If it's not, A tip that I got is it's probably because you have to go on the website and do it there. It will probably show up there. And if it's not there, just sign up for a bunch of the offers that they're already offering you, and those ones will go away because you've signed up for them, and then it will give you new offers, and this will probably show up. And so the one that you want is for Hodenki. Again, Hodenki.
We have
So bad.
If you don't like any of those bands, I also want to talk another little bit of content we just published today. Best Apple Watch Ultra bands.
Oh, really?
We got a roundup of rugged ones that some are made specifically for the Ultra. Others are just you can tell they're going to look good with it, right? Because you don't want a little, just you want something kind of macho.
You want someone with some muscle. You don't want one of those Alex E. Dainty rich wristwatch straps.
This is the time for a thin, crocodile leather.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, crocodile might be just fine, especially
only if you skinned it yourself.
If you skinned the thing yourself, right?
That's me of his snout. It's like just still nose holes in it. That's what you use for the pin to go through. Let's see here. Before we move on, we gotta wrap it up here, Lewis. God, this is going super long. Should we talk about the giveaway? But we don't have a link for it yet, do we?
Yeah, the giveaway is not live yet this week, and we don't have the post yet, but it's going to be live, I would say, tomorrow, which would be the day that most people will be listening to this anyway. It's going to be for a Lout bundle. Lout is one of the fine retailers in the Cult of Mac store, and we're going to be giving away to 3 different winners. A bundle that includes an iPhone 14 case, along with a screen and lens protector.
Right.
So that's something to look forward to.
Okay.
As always, you'll be able to find it on the homepage, cultofmac.com. Just scroll down the giveaway area, click it, and enter all the can, and the next thing you know, you're a winner. It's just like that.
And the next thing you know, you're a winner
like
because you got a chance.
If you're on the Cult of Mac website, you're already a winner.
That's true. 100%. 100%. All right. So check out the giveaway. Not today, but actually, if you're not listening to this on Thursday, then check it out.
Probably today.
Probably will be up, but that's the professionalism and preparedness you could expect from cultofmac.com. I guess there's
in the works.
There's only one other topic I want to talk about, and this is my experiment. So, as you all know, I was on vacation, as I mentioned for the fifth time probably this episode.
Where?
I went to Florida, Lewis. Barely made it out. And I decided, I made a big decision. I was like, do I want to take a camera into Disney World with me? Because you got to carry it all around on roller coasters. Everything that you take in there, you have to carry around all day. And I have this Fujifilm camera that I love, the X-T3. Takes beautiful photographs. And I was like, the iPhone takes such great photos now. Can I get away with just taking my iPhone? And so I decided to do just that. I left my mirrorless camera behind. And I took my iPhone only. I used it for photos. I used it for videos. And I'd say for the most part, I was pretty pleased, especially with video. Because the iPhone, what it has going for it more than anything else is convenience. It's in your pocket all the time. It gets great battery life. It takes beautiful videos with Dolby Vision, and it uploads those videos automatically to iCloud, so they're backed up immediately, right? It's so convenient to use an iPhone. But the thing that I realized is I made a huge mistake.
Oh, jeez.
Like, as good as those photos look, well, let me back up. There are some photos that the iPhone does better than anything else because its computational HDR is just so talented. It's not perfect, though. And in a lot of bright situations, it made people's skin look really washed out. It over sharpens all the time, and things just look terrible. And I was like, this just looks like crap. Or the photo will look good on the phone, but once you look at it somewhere else, you're like, yeah, this doesn't actually look that good. There's no depth of field. So you don't get that nice blurry background, which I know you can do. I mean, it will do portrait mode. You can kind of like fake it, but it doesn't look the same to me. And I'm not like terribly sad about my decision to do that because I got a lot of wonderful photos and videos. And I mean, especially the video again. For taking video on the go, there's nothing better than an iPhone, honestly. Like the sound sounds great. It stays in focus all the time. You can take long videos and all of it's stored on the phone. So for the video stuff, I'm actually kind of happy because if you want to take a mirrorless camera for video, there's not really any that I know of that actually do video really, really great, especially with autofocus. That's the one thing that the iPhone does so well that other cameras just don't do well is the autofocus is just spot on all the time. But the photo quality, that's where I had regrets. I was like, there are a lot of situations where I wished I had had my mirrorless camera because I was looking through the photos and a lot of them, like the skin looks fake or the colors are
Oh,
all
jeez.
off,
Fake skin.
fake skin,
Oof.
and people's skin color is not right, or there's no depth of field. So it's hard to like really create like a focus point within the image because everything is just in focus, from the person in the front to the balloons 100 yards behind them. Like there's just a lot of clutter happening.
You didn't try portrait mode?
I did. I did. But even still, it doesn't look as natural as a good camera does. And then more than that, the iPhone does some things that a mirrorless camera just can't do. And the like high dynamic images is one of those things. Like if you're in a scene where it's really bright and there's a really dark background behind you with a normal camera, you're going to have to expose for one or the other. You're either going to have a background that's too dark or the foreground that's too bright. And so you lose one of those scenes, right? The iPhone, it does a good job at blending those two things. Sometimes it's unnatural though. But if you're in a scene that isn't too dark or isn't a high dynamic range situation, like it's late in the afternoon or early in the morning, in those situations, the iPhone cannot touch a mirrorless camera. Like the Fujifilm has some of the best colors in the business. The color science is probably one of the best that is out there. Maybe Canon does it a little bit better. And you just get such better looking images, more beautiful skin tones, more natural looking. There's not all this artificial sharpening that happens on the iPhone. Like, I wish that Apple would give you a way to tell it how you want photos to look. Like, I want to reduce the sharpening. And I want to do this all pre-photo, right? I don't want you to take the photo and then allow me to edit it, because once the photo is created, especially on the iPhone 13, that photo is baked in. Like all those, that pie is baked, Like you can change it a little bit, but you can't change it as much as you would be able to if you could tell the phone what you wanted it to look like before the picture was taken. And so I do have a little bit of regret. I'm like, I should have just sucked it up, taken the mirrorless camera with me as well, and carried both. Because with a vacation this expensive, with a vacation like this that you only do maybe once in a lifetime or twice, you want to have the best images that you can. And I felt like I was a little let down by the iPhone in the image department. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still would have used it a ton for video, but it wouldn't have been my go-to for photos, because the HDR, when you really rely on it and make it your main camera, I don't feel like it delivers the same level of quality. Striking blow. Am I surprising you?
I was wondering if the photographic styles feature in iOS 16 might help you with that.
I tried it. I don't really feel like
Didn't
that
help?
made much of a difference. I mean, again, it's because the camera doesn't give you enough control over what you want the photo to look like before it's taken. Like with my camera, I can tell it to expose in a certain way. I can say what the sharpness needs to be. And so it will produce the results I want every single time. And the iPhone is like, well, do you want a photo that looks warmer, or do you want a photo that looks more vivid? But when you tell it that you want a photo that's brighter or more vivid, you're selecting a whole range of settings that it does for you, because it's supposed to be made for people that don't know how to take pictures, right? But for me, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I just want you to give me access to the exposure. I want you to give me access to sharpness and a bunch of other, settings, color balance and that type of thing, white balance, and I'll just tell you what I want, and then you calculate accordingly. So just a heads up, if you guys should have upgraded to the iPhone 14 Pro, I honestly don't know if that would have made that much of a difference. It probably would have made a small difference from the photos that I've seen, but if you're going to go on a vacation, take your camera with you. If you have a camera and you know how to use it, take your camera with you. You're gonna be happy that you had both, I think. That's all I got to say about that, Lewis.
All right, then. It's been so long since I've used any kind of camera other than an iPhone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people are probably in your same boat.
I mean, I still have old film cameras and stuff. I never bought a, like a DSLR. Never bought one of those.
Yeah, I have a whole section of them, and
yeah.
They're pretty good, man. And I just got this GoPro like I've been talking about, and now I'm going to try and play with that and see if let's see what kind of results that can produce, and maybe I can use that for video, and see how it does in all these different situations. I mean, again, the thing about the iPhone is like it's just so versatile, man. It's like you have it in your pocket all the time, and it does take beautiful
Absolutely.
photos and videos in many conditions, right? So I'm not knocking it in any way, but it's also kind of awkward to hold. So like the GoPro, in fact, I don't have it on the handle here, but you can just plop it on a handle and it's small. And like I could have taken that thing on roller coasters, and that would have been awesome. Because I did some insane roller coasters. I went to Universal Studios, and I did this one ride. It's new, called the Velocicoaster. And as I was getting on this ride, I'm like, I'm not even sure this is a good idea. I don't even know if I should be here. So first of all, they make you go through like airport grade security to even get on this ride. You got to go through like metal detectors. You have to take everything out of your pockets, because this ride, I learned afterwards, it gets up to 70 miles per hour, and the entire track is over the walkways of the park. So they want to make sure like your phone's not flying out of your pocket, your quarters in your pocket aren't flying out and killing someone on the walkway below, right? So I get into this thing, and it's one of the most new coasters they have at the park, and they're lowering the bars that go over my shoulder. It's like, right? It's closing, and I'm like, man, this is it. This is all that you're gonna put on me to hold me into this ride, because I saw the track. The track looks totally insane, and I don't like the fact that all I have to rely on for my life is this little bar that goes over my neck. Well, little did I know that I would literally be relying on that bar for my life, because the ride, there's parts of the ride where you're going like 40, 50 miles an hour, and it flips you upside down, and you're not doing like a loop. It just literally flips you upside down, and you come off your seat entirely, and you're hanging by the bars on your shoulder, going 50
Hanging
miles,
by the what?
hanging by the bar.
What's this ride again?
It's called the Velocicoaster. It's like the new Jurassic Park ride they have at the park, and you're literally hanging there in these with the bars that go over your shoulder, with your butt off the seat, going like 50 miles an hour. I sat next to this guy. He had been on the ride a few times. I get on. He's like, "Have you been on this before?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Okay," like preparing himself to. Well, he was giving me tips throughout the whole thing, like the parts that were going to get crazy. We were coming down this big loop-to-loop, and you're going down this flat part. And I thought the ride was coming to the end, and he leans over and he goes, "Here it comes." I'm like, "Here what comes? Here what comes?" And right when he says that, the ride goes from like, I don't know how fast we were going, 40 miles an hour to like 70, and you speed up, and you're like, it plops you back into your seat because it accelerates so fast. And then boom, it takes you up in like these churns and all these crazy loop-to-loops. I also went on this ride called the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. And dude, that thing is just designed to give you PTSD. Like the entire ride experience is like agitating. The entire experience before you get to the roller coaster has like all these like lights and sirens going off, and it's like like it's trying to, get you stirred up and ready for the ride. And then they put you in this huge pipe that's like sitting at like a 45-degree angle, sitting straight up. It's like this big, it's supposed to be like a gamma radiation gun. And you're in this roller coaster, and it's taking you up slowly, and then boom, it just like 0 to 60, I think in like maybe 1 or 2 seconds, it launches you out of this pipe. And the very first thing it does is it spins you on your upside down and then takes you back down. So like from the moment you launch out, you're going like 60 miles an hour, screaming for your life. And then it takes you on all these crazy like loop-de-loops and stuff. I mean, the whole ride is over in 90 seconds, but you feel like you're in there for an eternity because it's just going so fast. It was wild. But for something like that, you wouldn't be able to have your iPhone out because you couldn't hold on to it. But GoPro has like a helmet or like a head strap that you can use, and you attach to that, and like I could have got the entire ride. Like that would have been cool. So I'm looking forward to playing around with that. All right, tangent over. I could talk more about the vacation. I can go on and on. But I think we should go ahead and wrap it up there, Liz. I see you have nothing left to say. You're just nodding now.
I'm just looking at these pictures of these rides, and I feel almost queasy just looking at them.
Get on YouTube and search Velocicoaster, and you'll see what I had to endure. It's a good thing I was wearing my male adult diapers. All right, all. That's all the Cultcast that Lewis lent me. That's all the Cultcast we have for you guys this week. If you want to come tell us about your favorite roller coaster experiences, we're both on Twitter. I'm at Airfun, ERFWin, the new Twitter, duking it out. Lewis is at Lewis Walls. This has been the Cultcast, the best 30-plus minute app conversation you're going to hear all week long. New episodes of the Cultcast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Maybe I should do a whole roller coaster episode where I can just... It'll be like a therapy session, Lewis.
Coaster hunter.
I'll just tell you about all the poor decisions I made going on those roller coasters.
Yeah, I think roller coasters and gators.
What's that?
Roller coasters and gators.
Yeah. Look, I'm an adventurer. That's why I'm getting the Alpine Loop Apple Watch Watch Ultra.
It's going to come in handy.
So if the gator eats it, I can pinpoint its location and go get it back. Go get my arm back. I'm gonna use Find My to go get my arm back from the gator.
Dr. Hook.
Should have upgraded to
Captain
Dial
Hook,
Pro.
wasn't it?
What?
Was that also Disney? Captain Hook?
Captain
Daffy
Hook?
Duck, Donald Duck. I can't.
Oh my gosh, Lewis. I think that we have to have like a rubric made for you. Show you which characters are which. All right, all. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next week. I'm having to the end stream break. Bye, y'all.